does a lot of amazing, impressive things that really, you look at Ninja Theory, you go, what a bunch of talented folks over there, right? But it doesn't push that into like being an amazing game, a good game, a game that I would say you got to go play, right? Like I feel like that's how I feel about Hellblade 1. Coming into Hellblade 2, last week we did the interview with Dom. Paris, we both had the question, you got to it first, of what about combat? He's like, it's combat from the ground up. We really wanted to change that. And I got so excited, right? Of like, oh my God, they're addressing it. Sitting down, popping on the headphones, playing on the Series X, playing on the big TV, getting in there, being stunned by these visuals, getting into that first combat encounter, and it is not, it's solving one of the main complaints I had, which was, oh man, like before it was so annoying to get into these just rooms full of monsters and they're just coming at me, and it's not hard, the combat's not difficult, but I'm getting hit because I'm getting attacked from behind or something like that. They do a very interesting thing where you fight multiple people in Hellblade 2 at once, but you're really only fighting one-on-one ever. Like, I don't remember them ever actually doing another person. It was always them. They do beautiful animations of people running in, shoving your other opponent out of the way to fight you, jumping on your back, so now you spin around, you're fighting them. Just breathtaking capture work here of what it is, and choreography, right? And, Tim walked over and he's like, first 30 minutes, he's like, so how is it? And I'm like, dude, this is so impressive what they're doing here. It seems like they've answered my questions, You get to the other end of the 7-hour journey there, and I am left exactly where I was with Hellblade 1, where I think this is a 6.5. Like, this is an okay video game. It is gorgeous, and it's technically wonderful, and the performances are great, and the mocaps, all of that is true. But when it is, you are at the sticks, it is so dull. I just, like, okay, now we've removed the annoyance for Greg of people attacking you, but then you're just into this combat system that is just, I can be half asleep playing it, right? Where and they changed the parry window. I saw other reviewers complain about this. I told you in a conversation where I'm like, I'm not the parry poppy, right? Yeah. Like, I'm not that guy, but I
don't
still
like how it feels.
They're doing something here, and you were like, I think they might be making it cinematic, where even if you parry right, sometimes they're still making it seem like you didn't or whatever.
I think so. Yep.
And so again, like, that's a choice that I get to make these feel like every battle's by the skin of your teeth kind of thing. But really, as a player, it would just annoy me. Like, well, what did I do wrong? Or did I do something wrong? Did I not do anything wrong? And so, honestly, at the end of the game, like, we're talking the final, like, 2 battles and then the final boss battle. Not because of difficulty at all, but because I went in and checked. I was like, this is interesting. I let the game play itself. And I just watched it happen. Because you can do it where you can go in and set combat to. You don't even play combat. They'll just play it and fight it for you. And it was the thing of watching it and, okay, she parried there, and they did do the attack. So, no, it wasn't on me. That's what's going on, blah, blah. But doing that and being like, I'm getting more out of this than I was doing it. Because doing it, all I'm thinking of, like, this isn't fun. This isn't a fun way to play this game, right? And watching it, I was fine. And I think that was one of the things that I was like, again, in this very interesting, cool new world of the Daily Gamescast, able to go read what people are saying about it, right? And over on GameSpot, Jessica Cogswell and hers is lined up perfectly with me, right? Based on its new naming convention and the use of Saga in Hellblade 2's title, and Microsoft's acquisition of Ninja Theory following the success of Senua's Sacrifice, it seems as if Hellblade is stated to be a series as well as a staple in Xbox's first-party lineup. That said, at this point, I don't exactly understand where the series is headed, if not to the box office. There are plenty of games that prove games can be art, but as some studios lean harder into proving that one specific way, as the studios lean harder into proving that in one specific way that cribs from Hollywood, we're seeing some games that feel afraid of being games. With too much focus on cinematics and too little on creating an experience that is engaging, Senua's Saga fails to reach the same highs as its predecessor, even if it looks stunning whilst trying. Like, that nails it for me. Of, like, Hellblade 1, I think I talked about this in the review. Every time I would put it down, I was never like, got to get back to it. I'm excited to get back to it. Oh, yeah. And Hellblade 2, early on, I had that of like, I'm going to play at home. Oh, I want to do this. But like, as the story goes, it gets in, I think it takes a turn into like, oh, okay, this could be interesting. It is interesting. But then it's like, it's going to get grand, but it's actually still small. I was like, oh, okay. When like the quest is revealed of where we're going after what the initial, quest is, it's like, oh, this feels like I'm about to set off on a 20 or 30 hour game. And you're not. You're already halfway through the game. It's like, this is all bizarre. And so it's just a bunch of stuff that doesn't work for me. Like, I did not enjoy playing it. The puzzles are fine. Like, none of it's broken. None of it's bad. But it's just like, I feel like this is a game I put down and because of when I was offered game to play the game versus watching the game, it brought down the other stuff of the performances of the story they were trying to tell, and I didn't feel a connection to it. And so it's very much a game that I beat last week and I haven't thought much about. Paris, your hand has been up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's because you bring up a bunch of valid points, which is why
I always do.
Oh, wow. Okay, here we go. But that's why I sit at 8 out of 10 versus being a little higher on it than Mike, as Mike is, I should say, because you bring game length into it, because that was another nitpick that I had. Not that, oh my God, this game needs to be 20 hours. It's that, yeah, this being about a 6 to 8 hour experience is probably right. But at the same time, I feel like I wanted more. But with the current game mechanics, it really would have overstayed its welcome. It really would have been just way more repetitive if this was a 12, 15, 20 hour experience. So,
which is heartbreaking that it's so repetitive at 7 hours.
Yeah.
I agree. But this brings the question into me. This is just why I'm curious what you think and what everyone else thinks. Did we really want Ninja Theory to stray too far away from what they did in the original game from a gameplay standpoint? Again, I wanted, a more evolution of the combat. I wanted more evolution of the puzzles, but at what point? But how far could they have pushed that and still stay true to what was Hellblade? I guess is my question. Whereas I do think they should have done more, but how much more should they have done? To your point about the combat, where you said you just kind of at the end let it just do its thing, and you almost watched it as a cinematic experience. I want a game still. I want to be able to play 100%. A game. I want to control it, because I forget who said this, but someone was comparing this to Dragon's Lair back in the 80s, right? Remember that? Space Ace, where, it's just, I press this direction or that direction, but essentially you're just watching a movie. I didn't feel Hellblade was that. I felt it was more than that. I felt I did have more control over the game than that. But it does bring into what you're saying, and then what Jessica said in her review as well. Is this more of just a cinematic movie than a game? I want a game. If I'm making sense, I feel like I'm not making sense, but I want the game part of this. Whereas I don't think Ninja Theory took it far enough to give everybody a satisfactory experience.
And that's kind of why I start off my portion of the review with talking about like the games as art thing, because I think unequivocally again, like Hellblade 2 is art, and it's trying to be art. But Mike, funny enough, had this exact conversation yesterday where Mike on his way out was talking about like, so like, what do you think, whatever. And I'm like, I was kind of talking through it. I think Mike was like, what are you gonna give it? I was talking through it, and I was just like, yeah, like I feel like the combat's not working for me, and like feels dull and feels very understated, and the puzzles aren't working for me, and they feel understated. And so what's left is just the story experience, the narrative experience. And so I am left with a similar thing of, yeah, then why isn't this a movie? Why isn't this a book? Why isn't this an audio experience? What about this as a video game makes it special as a video game? And that's not me saying that narrative games shouldn't exist or anything like that. But I think even with narrative games, I look at something like Gone Home, and the special thing about Gone Home is that I am free to explore this house, and I'm picking up the things, and I'm like looking at the scenery, and I'm doing things, and there's the stories being told by the way that I'm playing the game. Hellblade, I feel like if the point of it is to be this narrative experience, the point of it is to be about Senua's journey and not about the combat and not about the puzzles, then why is there the combat and why is there the puzzles and why isn't it a thing where I'm looking around the world? Like, I think there's something there in terms of how they could level it up if they double down on combat. It is this weird, conundrum that you're in, because it is also a 6, 7, 8 hour video game. And so how are you going to build a combat system that feels worthwhile, that feels like you're leveling up? Do you add leveling up? Do you keep it to the same thing? But then also, how do you introduce people to a combat system in a game that's so short? And so like they don't have a tutorial in this game, they just throw you into it. I think there's so many issues you run into when you have the story that you want to tell in this concise of a way. And I think on the story side, I think they succeed in a lot of it. But then on the gameplay side, I just don't think they figure it out.
Yeah, that's the interesting spot of where I'm at. It's like the experience of it all is there, right? Are we looking for this to be what was this team looking to build? The game part is the issue where people are going to get lost. Like, this is a video game. I want it to be gamified, where this is an experience. This is put on the headphones and take a ride along with them. This is hop in the boat with Kratos, and we're going to watch this story unfold.
Kratos.
Take part in a couple of pieces.
It's not fucking God of War, mate.
that much of this. And I enjoyed
Dumb
it.
motherfucker, I swear.
It was so cinematic. It was a movie, but all of a sudden I got to move. I wasn't ready to move because I'm getting lost in the sauce of it all. And I had to snap out of it going, oh, geez, I'm supposed to be playing right now. And I think that's the wow factor to me is it's something different, right? I didn't come into this Hellblade 2 going, I'm looking for the most gamified game here. I'm looking for an experience. I'm looking to see what this team is doing.
He's such a mouthpiece, this guy. Such a mouthpiece.
We're taking the visuals to the next level. We're working so in depth with the audio. You're never going to see this before. And they nailed all of that for me. And that's what I wanted out of this experience.
I hear you, and I think this is obviously back to, first off, art. Everybody's going to take something different away, and I've seen people in the chat, well, what did you, even Paris was like, you know, what do you do to make it this and that? I don't fully believe that Ninja Theory's heart's in the combat. That's my thing, right? So then why do the combat? Why not have it be, when you, first off, dial it back, because it is still, oh man, there's this giant fight, and I got to fight through 7 different guys or whatever, what's happening. Do a really nice cutscene, because the fucking cutscenes are gorgeous, and the game's beautiful. Do that and have it be, yeah, exploration or doing the thing. Right? Like, walking sims, I saw people talking about over there, right? And like, Greg loves walking sims. Why wouldn't he like this? It's because this isn't all the way in on that. I feel like that's the problem with this game, is that it's like, it's half in, half out on what it is and what it wants to be. It clearly wants to be an experience. It clearly wants to be, we are going to rock you with audio. Use headphones. They say it right at the front. You should use headphones. It's awesome. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be this. But if you just want to tell me the story, then just tell me the story. Don't feel bad about that. Like, let's figure out a way to strip out and then really set expectations for where it is. Because again, it's not that I get there and it's like, I'm just bored by the gameplay. Like, the gameplay isn't doing it for me, right? Like, I don't, like, it's just not happening the way I want it to because it's not enjoyable to do.
And I think you have to critique it because it's there.
Of course. Yeah, you got to judge what the game is, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also, I mean, it's funny because the idea of like it being a tech demo was popping into my mind as I was playing the game, right? I don't mean that as like a pejorative or anything, but I mean that more so in just the idea of the way they showcase tech in this game is so impressive that I think it does the job of a tech demo better than any tech demo I've ever played, right? Like, it's like this in Astrobot in a way where I'm like, I didn't know games could look this good on Xbox Series X, and playing it on a console at home with the black bars on the top and bottom in that widescreen mode, it looks fucking fantastic. And everything about presentation in this game, I think, is maybe what's going to stand the test of when we get to the end of the year and we're doing the end of the year awards and we're talking about games at the end of the year. Because as I go through my notes, everything that's about presentation is a superlative. You know, I talk about the performances are fantastic. And Paris touched on it before, but Melina's performance as Senua is incredible. The soundtrack is gorgeous. The soundtrack has moments in the game where I'm like, man, this is fucking incredible. The environments, like we mentioned before, look so great. The cinematography is fantastic. Is it one shot all the way throughout? Because I didn't notice any cuts.
I thought at the beginning, I thought it was going to be one shot, but I think there is some cuts.
There's some cuts.
They do that thing where like they'll bring the camera up into the trees and show passage of time and come back down. I don't know if that counts or not. I saw one review call out that, of course, it is.
I don't know if the entire thing is a one shot, but it has that same kind of vibe. It's like when you're playing God of War 2018 or Ragnarok, where the camera kind of stays with you, and they do very clever things with cutting to different locations with that. And that stuff is done extremely well. Like, I really like it as a produced, and it's tough because I almost want to be like it's a better film or better like experience like that than it is a video game. But I do think that's where I come from.
I will go 100% and say that again. Like, if I was, it's a weird one, right? Like, you brought up the different narrator, right? Which is no spoilers, but you can do a different narrator when you beat it, right? Like, it is that idea of like, I have half a mind to try that and just leave the auto combat on, but then even then it would still be like, I don't know if auto puzzles are on. It's like, again, like, it's just not working as a game, which when I sit down, I want to participate in what I'm doing, right? I feel like watching someone stream it or watching a compilation or whatever might go there. But again, even that said, I feel the deeper we got, the more the story kind of went, oh, okay. Like, for me, in terms of like, okay, we get there, we introduce, there's a character you introduce that you're with, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And then it's another and another. And I'm like, all right, well, like, these other people are fine, but then I know what it's what we're talking about in terms of the short game, right? Which is not a negative. I don't think the length of the game is a negative.
I like the
length. It's the idea that when you start adding these people in, I'm like, oh, well, now you're pulling on my own experiences in fiction of like, oh, well, you want me to care about this person just because they're with us or whatever. And did we really get there? Did we really justify that? No, I don't remember that. I right now don't remember any of these guys' names. You know what I mean? Like, I remember their roles, but yeah, Paris.
But see, that's again, when we talk about game versus experience, this is why I think we're all in agreement. Ninja Theory was pushing for this to be an experience. I am convinced after playing this game twice, which is why I wanted to play it a second time, none of this happened. And this ain't a spoiler. This is, she's suffering through psychosis. Sure. What is real? What is not real? I don't think any of this happened. I think the characters that she met weren't really there. Yeah. I truly believe that as I played through.
No, they were there, but not like how she
was. Kind of, sort of. Don't really. There's one section of the game where she gives up the sword, like puts it in the thing, and then you go through this whole other section, and then you conveniently get the sword back. I think that's her mind. That's her. I need this back now, so now it's conveniently back here so that I can use it. That's where I take the experience of it, the story of it, the narrative of it, the audio experience that they're presenting to you, because constantly these whispers are happening in your ear and they're conflicting each other, and the darkness is in the background saying another thing that I truly appreciated and enjoyed about what Ninja Theory was attempting here with Senua's Saga. So I 100% understand the critiques, the complaints about gameplay, because they are valid. But I also think the experience that they gave us in there kind of trumps it in a way that I want. This is why I recommend people, regardless of what the score is or whatever, play it, go through this experience, because I do think there is something there for you to enjoy. I really do. And especially, again, with dealing with psychosis, dealing with mental health, that is an aspect that we just simply don't see enough in gaming.
Yeah, but this is tough, right? Because again, like everything you just said, Paris, right? Is it real? Is it not? Is a conversation we also had about Hellblade 1, right? And it's because it is psychosis. My thing about all of this is I'm trying not to spoil it, right, and get around it or whatever. Right. But it's like, does it really have anything to say about that? Like, it's letting you, it's worked with Cambridge, it's done all the stuff, it's trying to represent psychosis in a video game, right? So I get the voices and I get not knowing what's real, but when I get to the end of this story, even Hellblade 1, I wasn't like, wow, you really said something here about this and changed the way it was just, no, this is all cool tech, and it's interesting that like you're so upfront of like, oh yes, this is psychosis, this is what it's like for so many people. But we get to the end, and it's not like I felt on either of these projects that I walked away like I have a different understanding of someone dealing with this. Am I wrong? Am I alone in that?
I think that's. I think it's very interesting, because Hellblade 1, I think I was more invested in as almost more of an emotional experience than a narrative experience. Like, I was following along with the narrative, and I enjoyed the story, but I think it was just what she was going through and how they were putting us in those shoes that really drove it home. And I think the things to add in with Hellblade 1 too, because we want to talk about the combat and puzzles and all that stuff, and how that feeds in, right? Like, I mentioned that the puzzles in this game feel a bit more hand-holdy than the ones in the first one. There's also the aspect in the first game, and maybe this applies to mainly just the way I played, where early on they lie to you in Hellblade 1, and they imply that if you lose too many times, you're gonna lose your save data. And for me, that added so much tension into the overall experience, where even though the combat wasn't as complex, the combat was also a thing that I had issues with in the first one. That added level, at the very least, had me way more engaged, where I'm like, okay, but I'm not gonna die. Like, I can't die too many times because the rod is gonna go all the way and like fucking kill me. And so all of that added to feeling, and all of that added to emotion. Whereas Hellblade 2, again, I'm kind of on the same level in terms of the beat to beat what's happening in the story, but I'm also missing the emotional resonance that I had with Hellblade 1. I don't know if that's just like the way they present things, the things that happen. There's also like an element of FMV that they have in Hellblade 1 that they don't have at all in Hellblade 2.
I missed it.
Yeah, and like I kind of missed that too, right? I think there's so much that they're throwing at you in that first game to kind of catch you off guard, whereas Hellblade 2 kind of, keeps it a bit more even. And I think part of that is just where Senu was at in her journey, because, Hellblade 1 was so fucking taxing. Hellblade 2 is coming after that. Maybe she's healed a little bit, and so I don't think they're going as wild with that stuff. But yeah, like I didn't feel it, which is kind of a weird way to talk about it in terms of narrative or whatever, right? Because narrative, you want to talk about, was the story good? The story here is so cerebral and so amorphous that I don't really care about talking about the story. More so, I'm like, did it work for me emotionally? Did I feel what Senua was going through, or did I feel something by the time I finished this game? And I will say the ending worked for me. The last 20 minutes of the game, I really enjoyed what was happening, and I really felt the note that it ended on, but through most of the game, I just didn't have that emotional resonance.
Mike, what about you with emotional resonance and having something to say?
Yeah, I mean, having something to say, it didn't feel like, to me, I walked away having a better understanding of mental health and maybe the issues that they were going to portray in this that I thought they would. But I did walk away going, man, I liked a lot of the messaging, right? I think we have a more matured Senwa who has grown and now needs that belief from others and in herself. And like I said at the beginning of this, I felt like we saw that. There was moments there where I was like, oh man, I really like what you've done there. And I like how she is now empowering not only herself, but others, right? And I kind of see that moment. You see those moments go through, and she is the light. And I think I believed that. I was in that for the whole ride. And I resonated with that of like, here's someone, if you've gone through Hellblade 1 into 2, you've seen now grow. You've seen a moment turning in this story that it's really tough to not spoil, right? But like, there are moments here where it's like, yep, I see this. It's happening live in front of me, and I believe in that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we believe in you. And if you believe in us, you should get the Kinda Funny membership. Of course, with the Kinda Funny membership, you can watch all of our programming, every show we do, and we do a lot ad-free. Of course, you get the ability to watch us record the afternoon podcast like today's Kinda Funny podcast live as we record them, and you'd get the daily multimedia experience Greg way for your listening and viewing pleasure. But guess what? You're not using your Kinda Funny membership right now, so here's a word from our sponsor.
This episode's brought to you by BetterHelp. We all carry around different stressors, big and small. I'm currently planning a wedding, so I know all about that. But when we keep them bottled up, it can start to affect us negatively. Therapy helps you find your strengths so you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick.
Something like Devil May Cry be fucking insane. Like, you know, the cinematic approach to the combat is totally appropriate for the kind of story they want to tell. Is there a balance there? Like, is God of War the answer? Like, what is?
I don't think any of those are the answer. And so the answer to the question, right, is like, and have it be so bare bones in both games, because again, like it or hate it, all art should be like that. This is their vision. I don't think anybody got in the way of what Ninja Theory's vision was for this. They believed in this combat system, in this puzzle system, and they ran with it, right? And so that's what they wanted this to be. Would God of War's combat system have been better? It would have been different, right? And I think, again, this game, you know, is it real? Is it fake? Is it all in her head? Is it not? Like, is so grounded, right? And obviously, no spoilers for this one, but last one, right? We get into all sorts of monsters, and we're talking to Hela and all, you know what I mean? Like, shit's out there. But it is grounded in the way that you are still just Senwa, right? Like, you are just there, boots on the ground, trying to survive with your sword. Like, I like that. I enjoy that aspect of it.
And that's the thing about the combat that I think is fascinating. Because, you know, I name drop God of War because you could say God of War is a serious story as well. Yeah.
Sure.
But God of War, at the end of the day, is still
a god.
Yeah, you're a fucking god, and you're a fucking superhero, and you have like this a head on your waist that's making jokes the entire time. Like, it's just totally a different game. Like, when we get action games, most action games have this level of levity and goofiness, and you know, there's a pulp to it because it's action, you're jumping around, you're doing all this shit. As Nathan Drake, you're fucking gunning down 100 people because that's the tone of the story. Hellblade, in the tone, it's grounded, right? It is gritty, it is realistic to what like a fantasy Norse, you know, realistic thing is.
Yeah.
It is realistic. And so I'm almost of the mind, you know, you mentioned this is Ninja Theory's vision, and I believe that, but I'm almost of the mind of like, hey, like, don't feel like you have to do combat, right? Like, it's just because it's a video game doesn't mean that you have to do video gamey things. Just as long as it is interactive in a way that is more engaging, like, don't feel like you have to force the combat. Not every single video game needs combat.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting one right there. I like the combat for what it is, for the story that it is, for the tone of it all. I think it fits very well. I think they elevated the combat from 1 to 2 in a way that I preferred. I did not like the combat in 1. It always felt like I was in this little puzzle cage, and it was just the same guys with the deer heads coming after me. Like, I liked all of the enemy variety in this. They felt very humanoid most of the time, and it felt cool to see them live and in person, and like, it felt different than the first one in a good way for me.
I thought that wore off real quick, though.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I liked every moment. I liked as well, if you die, sometimes the fight scenario will play out differently, of people bumping into you, certain fights now coming at you, you approaching another one in a different way. And I always felt like if I wasn't having if I was at the disadvantage, I appreciated the mirror being on my hip where I could build up the mirror and I could break it and I could stop time and get out of that fight. Every single one of those felt like my freebie get out of jail card. Is this guy punishing me too hard? Is the fire, I can't read the fire right now and I'm getting blown on there and I'm dying? Is that guy axing me too many times I just can't dodge it? Hey, I got the mirror on my hip. I appreciated that because I liked it. I liked dodging. I liked that they had the dodge in there. It felt cool to have the one-step dodge. It felt good to have the double dodge where she would roll on the ground and get around that person. The counter was good. I think I agree with you, Bless. There was moments where it didn't feel quite right, but for what I wanted, it felt good enough of like, I could counter that. And of course, these enemies are way stronger than Senua, right? So it's like there are moments where your counter doesn't really matter. They're going to push through you and you're going to get fallen back and you're going to have to reset. So I liked that.
And again, something that you mentioned at the very top in your piece that I don't think we've doubled back to, and I do want to compliment, right, is that, like, again, I did not enjoy the combat here. I did not feel like I needed to play it. I did not feel like this was fun. And granted, are all games fun? No, but like in this moment where I'm hitting buttons, I should be like satisfied, and I'm not satisfied with it. However, death animations, kill animations, the animations they do where, you know, you're fighting someone and they pull you or they put, you know, like that all was like, wow, this actually is really cool. But that was another one where I felt like 3 or 4 fights in, then the seams start to show like, oh, okay, this is every fight. It seemed cool and it was different in the front. Now I'm going to do this forever because this is, again, a one-trick pony kind of thing on what we're doing with it. Jordan Midler over at VGC, friend of the show, of course, put in his synopsis of his 3 out of 5 review something else I thought that spoke to what we're talking about, at least some of us. Hellblade 2 is a mechanically dated game carried by its incredible presentational flair. I think that was another, we'll go back to what we're talking about, right? Of like, it's why put the combat in there? This is the vision for the combat, but like, it doesn't feel up to snuff with any of its competitors around. So if you have such strong stuff surrounding it, why feel like you have to do it?
Yeah.
I digress. Let's go to another question over here. Let's go to just a review from Docs the Fox. Of course, super chat, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, just like you can. It says, Melina deserves an award for her performance here. She was incredible. Combat was super visceral. Also, shout out to the dads with kids. Shorter games are welcomed. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Well, shout out to anybody with kids, whether you're a dad, mom, or someone else. You know what I mean? Short games are great for anybody, even if you don't have kids as well. Again, I think early on when we were talking about it, people started trying to bring in the length as if we were complaining about it, which we never were, right? Cozy Bear comes up and says, just because a game's short doesn't make it bad. This is super chat. Does Hellblade 2's shortness feel appropriate for the story Ninja Theory wanted to tell?
Yeah, it was right on the money. It's a little two-parter. You can beat it in 2 nights or maybe make it 3 depending on your playtime. But I really enjoyed that there's an Act 1, Act 2, we're in the finale. Like, it felt very clear of where we were going. I think there is a moment in the middle where I was kind of like, man, we're doing this one more time, but okay. But then, like, at the end, when you get the final reveal and you go, oh, okay, like, this is the understanding of who these things are, what we're doing. I liked that. Nice little wrap-up.
I think it's worth calling out too that Hellblade 2 is a $50 game. It's not like a $60 or $70 thing.
It's on Game Pass as well.
It's on Game Pass as well.
Get it, yeah. Moving on here, another super chat. Unless Paris, do you have anything to say about the length? You were happy with it?
No, yeah, where I thought it was appropriate.
Ooh, diddly ooh. To me, the combat / puzzles don't bring the game down. Those things are for quote unquote games. To me, this is not a quote unquote game. It's a narrative experience.
See, this is where I'm going to push back again when we just talk about things that we're critiquing.
Please.
I do feel they could have done. I'm like, look, the puzzles didn't need to be freaking Cocoon. I'm not saying that, but they could have done more with the puzzles, and that doesn't take away from the experience that Ninja Theory is trying to take us on through this. Sure, the combat could be what it was, but I do think they could have given us a little more of a challenge, make us think a little more with the puzzle design. There was one where I was kind of, but even then, it only took me a few minutes to figure it out, and then I was, moving on throughout the game. So that would probably be my biggest pushback in this, that it still wouldn't have taken away from anything to have had more challenging puzzles at all.
Yeah, and I think, there were a few in there that I found enjoyable. And again, it's similar to one of the positives I gave Hellblade 1 of walking into these big arenas and be like, oh man, I could easily get lost in here and fuck up this puzzle. And I didn't, because it was so intelligently designed. Same thing here where it was, oh man, like I need to go all the way, like basically a spiral over to that part over there by this cave. But when I got over there, I went for the treasure, and so now I'm oh shit, fuck, what do I need? It never happened. I was always able to get myself. I may get turned around, like wait, what do I need to do? But I'd figure it out and get there. But then like the rune puzzles are a different story. I feel for what you're getting out of it.
Yeah, I've been seeing the sentiment of, Hellblade 2 isn't a game, it's a narrative experience. And so I'm able to look past like the puzzles and the combat and stuff. I'm curious on where that comes from. Is it because Hellblade 2 tells a unique story? Because like the balance of cutscene to combat to puzzles is like any other game, right? Like that's the thing that I don't buy. I think just because the combat and the puzzles are a problem for people, it doesn't automatically go, like you don't automatically go, but that stuff doesn't matter, it's just a story. Because you can say that about any game, right?
That's interesting.
I think it's the people who are reading these reviews or have already played it, right, and have their literal scale, not a review scale, but a scale, right, where to them the story, characters, whatever, outweigh the problems of this.
And that's fair.
Fair, and everybody's
I
open
have
to
those games as well.
interpret and review however you want to. I don't buy it. It's a video game. It's on Xbox Game Pass, not Xbox Narrative Pass. So it's like I am on the panel. No offense, I don't know fully Paris's things, but like I assume that I am the fucking king of the Greg games of the narrative walking sim visual novel. Oh, it's a girl going through adolescent angst. Like I love that shit. I wish this game was more honed in and focused on. No, it's just it's a Telltale game with beautiful graphics or something where you're not doing the fighting. We're just going to focus on the story and what's going on in your relationships. Like I would prefer that because I don't feel like it is good at what it does with combat and puzzles. So stop doing that.
Yeah, and I think for me, the games that I look at as narrative experiences that I still love, things like Immortality or things like Life is Strange, True Colors, those are still video games, right? Like there's gameplay to Immortality, the arranging and finding and like queuing in on the keywords. That is gameplay. Life is Strange, walking around the town, talking to people, making decisions. That is gameplay.
Feeling their feelings.
Feeling their feelings as well. And
she's an empath. Puzzles. She sees your colors. It's like a mood ring.
Yeah, like it's all gameplay. And so I think it still has to come into conversation, especially when you have as many puzzles and as much combat factored in as Hellblade 2 does.
So Paris, I'm even trying to go.
Yeah. It's the life of a remote person on this. But my thing is, I feel like because the visuals are so top end, the sound design is so top end, the performance is so top end, you almost want to excuse some of the weak points of the game, which is the combat and the puzzles. And that's kind of where I am, just on a personal level. Those portions of the game were so freaking good that I am happy that I had this experience playing the game. And then I go, sure, this could have been better, that could have been better, but I'm happy that I was a part of it, that I got to do it. So much so, obviously, I played it twice at this point, right? So I think it does the job of what a video game is supposed to do. And all of the stuff that we're talking about right now is very subjective, clearly, just looking at the reviews right now. But for me, it did the job. It did what I needed it to do to have an enjoyable experience. So again, I will give kudos to Ninja Theory on those aspects of the game. But sure, there's things they could have improved.
Speaking of Ninja Theory, we have a super chat from Nico. Nico! It's a GTA 4 reference. Now that Hellblade 2 is out, do you think Ninja Theory or any studio ever acquired by Xbox has become a stronger studio since Microsoft bought them?
Oh,
Michael, I want to kick to you. Do you
worse.
think that you played this game and you're
All
like,
of them will become worse.
Ninja Theory is on another level because of Xbox?
I would hope so. I would assume so. In my mind, yes, they have, right? They got the support and backing and hopefully the dollars to allow them as much time as needed to make this their perfect game
7
and their
years.
perfect vision, right? Like, I think you look at this, right? And for me, this is going to be something that we talk about in my mind of when we talk about great games that push the medium forward, that are amazing. Hellblade 2 will come up in that conversation. But what I always say, right, is like Xbox needs a third-person narrative adventure that sets the tone, like an Uncharted and The Last of Us. This is not that, right? And so we're going to look at this, walking away going, I think globally, worldwide gamers, people are not going to give this the love that it deserves and check it out and experience this and what they've done. But I think Xbox gave them, hopefully, the platform and the stability, most importantly, to say, hey, take as much time as you need. You're still open for business and alive here. And that's a big deal for me.
Before you get off the hot seat, my next question is, do you think, or do you worry This was not a universal 10 out of 10 game of the year. Oh my God, they crushed it. Do you worry about Ninja Theory in light of what we've seen with Xbox and layoffs and stuff?
No, not at all. I don't worry because, of course, we did hear earlier that they have been approved for their next one, so they will keep making games. If I was to be in a worry, it would be a different worry of what should be happening is I would go in there and say, hey, you guys have the tech. You have the vision. You do great stuff. Now make me an Uncharted like that. Make me a game that people want to play, like everybody's bringing up with gameplay, but still keep the visual and audio. Figure it out. That's what I would tell them.
Okay.
But like, isn't
Can you
that
answer that question?
Yeah, please, Paris.
And to the second part of what he just said, excuse me.
Let's clear his throat. It's going to be a big one.
Theory. Yeah, I don't think.
but like, isn't
Can you
that
answer that question?
Yeah, please, Paris.
Play like everybody's bringing up with gameplay, but still keep the visual and audio. Figure it out. That's what I would tell them.
Okay.
but like, isn't
Can you
that
answer that question?
Yeah, please, Paris.
And to the second part of what he just said, excuse me.
Let's clear his throat. It's going to be a big
Ninja
one.
Theory. Yeah, I don't think Ninja Theory is in trouble or anything. I think they're fine to answer that part of the question, but we obviously know the reality of what's happened in the last few weeks, you know, with some of the Bethesda studios, and then we've heard the quote that Matt Booty said, and I think this is probably the type of game that he's talking about in the sense of it's a smaller game that
win
will
awards.
probably be award winning and be prestigious, right? But I think the one thing that Ninja Theory, whatever their next one's going to be, is they can't have, I shouldn't say they can't because clearly they gave them the time to do it, but they probably wouldn't want as long of a development cycle for the next game to come from them. You want the visuals, you want the audio, whatever, if it's going to wind up being a sequel to this, but they probably don't want them to take 5 years to get this game out. They probably want it in, 3 years as an example. But I think this is the type of experiences now that Xbox has so many studios under their watch that not everything has to be the big AAA high seller, but you want things that people are going to be talking about because regardless of the scores or whatever, we're talking about it. People will be talking about this game. And like I said, Melina for sure is probably going to win some awards for this, for her performance, but they're probably going to get awards for sound design, things like that, technical achievements and all of that. So it did the job in that sense. So no, I don't think Ninja Theory goes away, and you want to see what they're going to do next.
And if they're not safe, what are we doing?
what are we doing?
That's my point.
Is that
would
not
be
the
the
same
thing when it's
thing
like,
as
if they're
Arcane
not safe,
Austin?
what are we doing?
Like
You know?
we're coming off of Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks, and it was the same thing of like them not being safe. I think even the opposite. The options that are on the table all depress me. Like, you mentioned, Mike, towards the end of of your statement that, you as Xbox, you look at them and go, make something that's like Uncharted or make something. I think you don't look at it, you don't acquire a studio like Ninja Theory to then go, hey, make an Uncharted or make something, make a Horizon or make a God of War.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, that's what Phil has done this whole time is he's held off doing that, right? But there's a moment here where we've all kind of looked and gone, maybe you should be saying that. Maybe it's time
but if
to
you
step
do,
up and be
isn't
like,
that fucking
stop
up?
doing
like,
that.
isn't that squandering what Ninja Theory is
I
as
agree.
a studio?
I agree, but we're getting to a moment. You just brought up
But this is the problem with
Tango, right? They made
consolidation.
Hi-Fi. That's not people around the globe celebrate that, but it's not a massive mainstream game. It didn't do the marks that it needed. You look at, of course, Redfall. That was a flop. You shouldn't have made that, and that's from the top. They shouldn't have done that. You go down the list. Ghostwire Tokyo was not a good game. That was not. That's why we're here at this moment. It's like someone eventually is going to have to look at them and say, you got to stop doing this. Make the game that we need to sell.
This is what we're the concern, right, that I've talked about on most of these shows since the Xbox layoffs and studio closures, right, of like the fear that it's Microsoft putting the screws to them. Of, all right, we just spent $69 billion on this. Fucking make money from this. Like, is the party over of being able to come in and fund the art house project, right? When you're an indie studio, when you're Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade 1, right? It's so much easier to have a level of success and, oh my God, we destroyed this. This is amazing. And then you bring that in here and for 7 years work on this game and get here and it's another 80 on Metacritic. You know what I mean? With people up and down all over the place and very few of the reviews being, oh, combat was awesome. Even the ones that are giving it the 9s and 8s are like, combat. Well, I shouldn't put words in all these mouths. You can go read the reviews and stuff. People do like the combat. But it's like that idea of like Xbox, I have to imagine, just wants a fucking win. Not a win with an asterisk, not a win, well, if you like this, not a win if you like Bethesda games. Yes, you'll
So where you been, man?
Starfield's problems, or we're patching
Where you
it,
been?
you know, nearly a year later, and this, that, and the like. They just want to fucking
Where
celebrate
you been?
something, and they can celebrate this. And I've seen them doing tweets and stuff, but again, it's the same argument of like, yeah, you can do it, but there are these other reviews that are there, and there's always negative reviews, I know, but I feel like this is a very interesting divide of like, I'm going to let it off the hook for the things I don't like because I loved this so much. And other people be like, I love that stuff, but I can't let it off the hook for this.
What's up, Bears?
Yo, to what Greg is saying then, and I'm asking Greg directly.
Fucking bring it on.
Then
Huh?
what is the games that we know of?
Nighttime munch for what?
Where they just get the pure win. What do you?
How long have I been
imagine it
streaming?
to be?
And that's my same question, right? Like, I don't think you find that game
90
through
minutes?
the acquisitions that they've been making. I think maybe you thought
You're the first person,
they're
Toshi.
going to give that to you with whatever their next big thing is, and maybe that still is going to happen with Elder Scrolls 6, or maybe you consider that to be the case with Starfield. But
I definitely, well, I know, because that'd be the same argument, right? Where I think Starfield again was so polarizing and not, you know, whatever. But like, I think Elder Scrolls 6 has to be a fucking slam dunk. Fallout 5 has to be a slam dunk. But we're talking so far down the line. Now you look and it's like, I'd like to say Indiana Jones, right? But like,
we'll see.
Will it? Like, you know what I mean? This is a conversation we've had on the movie side of Kind of Funny of like, well, do people give a shit about Indiana Jones? They make the movies. It doesn't seem like it, but this is a game. Will it be different? People want an Uncharted. I don't.
No one's lurking.
I don't love Indiana Jones.
It's you and
I
me.
enjoy the film's fine. I've never been an indie guy. Like, I'm dressing up like them, but the game makes me incredibly excited. Yes. Fuck yeah. Let's go.
I think my thing too with this is that Hellblade 2, based on the way people are, based on the Metacritic, based on the
I'll be streaming Hellblade 2, by the way, Toshi.
If you are Microsoft, if you're
Tomorrow.
Xbox and you acquired Ninja
Tomorrow
Theory
I'll be streaming
2017,
Hellblade 2.
at how people received Hellblade 1, you don't look at the Hellblade 2 reviews and go, oh, we didn't expect this. Like, this is the exact same way it went with Hellblade 1 of a lot of people being like, oh, man, this is art. This is incredible. This is all this stuff. And then all the other people being like, yeah, I don't vibe with the combat.
I'll be
Oh,
the
man, it's
judge.
different. And I think
I'll be the
you're probably
judge.
going to see the same in terms of what the commercial success of it is. I don't think Hellblade 2 is going to sell gangbusters. I think it's going to do probably a little bit better than what Hellblade 1 did. And yeah, as Microsoft, you're making an acquisition like Ninja Theory. You're making acquisitions like Double Fine. I think you look at any of these studios that are of that ilk and go, make something that's mainstream, that's going to hit with everybody. You're fucking up the acquisitions. You're fucking up the consolidations, right? Like, I also think you're making a worse games industry if you're converting these very special independent studios into something that are going, like, studios that are feasibly going to be hit machines for you or aren't going to exist because they can't.
I mean, the reviews are all over the place. You don't know if it. You don't know what.
Blizzard spins up the way they want it, and
You don't know like what to think of it. The reviews are all over the place. One person giving it 9, one person giving it 6, another guy giving it 8. The scores are literally all over the place.
Call of Duty's it, gets a gajillion dollars. It's the biggest entertainment launch. Diablo's latest season, everybody's saying Diablo's back, even though I never thought it was gone, but doesn't matter what I think. Now everybody's putting up headlines that it's back, and you hope that that expansion this summer, right, is fucking amazing. You hope that that Starfield expansion, Shattered Space, that I can't fucking wait for because I've been re-addicted to Fallout, or Starfield. I have so much to tell you about my fucking my trials and tribulations out there. Me and Barrett tearing up the universe, you know what I mean? Don't worry, we cleared his husband's name, Mike. Anyways, well, is that going to be the one of this is incredible? You know, Fallout 76, they got another expansion coming. Is that going to be something like these can be those things? But again, like they just want to win. They just want the fucking dominoes to fall. And like I'm with you 1,000% for the record of like, yes, when you buy Ninja Theory, you're going to expect this. When you buy Double Fine, you're going to expect that. Don't fuck it up. Don't get in there and muck it up and go do this. But it is that idea of what I got written in here, right, from Marky Johnson, that Blessing said it perfectly. The problem with is consolidation, particularly from Microsoft. They've not been good stewards of these studios, right? Like, I just worry about Microsoft coming down, crunching on them and changing what they are and making them do it and eliminating people. And
to me, it seems like they haven't.
Xbox stink, yeah.
Giving everyone the freedom to make whatever they want.
I'm sorry. I combine 2 points there. I combine 2 points there. I'm saying that my point is I'm worried that the fact that the games haven't produced the way they haven't been hit makers, that then Microsoft gets involved and fucks up Xbox's vision.
It's an interesting place of we're ending this review. We're on this review to talk about this game, and now we're talking about Xbox in the big picture. It's always funny we get back to this, right? Of like the mixed feelings of Xbox. It's wild that we're here again. But I mean, you bought an art house studio.
The stink is real. The stink is real, Toshi.
Elevated their tech within the mocap studio, the audio range to provide them probably a whole lot of money to buy all this stuff and giving them the power to do this, right? Should we not be celebrating what they just made, right? Now the issue is, well, it's not a hit. It's not good enough. Well, now we're just getting in the shareholder territory of like, well, then you should be making Fortnites. You should be making Call of Duties. And Phil and the team have fought hard not to do that. But there will be a moment, if that's what we want, they're going to do that. Because I could easily look at this team and say, make me Uncharted.
That guy is so paid by Xbox. I hate to say it, Toshi. They've all given their criticisms, but that guy on the right is so paid by Xbox, straight up. Secretly he's getting checks from Phil Spencer.
And they'll do that, right? Hey, Machine Games, make me more Wolfensteins and Dooms. Do it, you know, like eventually there will be a moment where if that's what you want, that's what's going to happen here. But they've fought so hard to keep all these so far. I mean, we should be celebrating that in my mind, unless you want Fortnites.
I agree the stink is real, but the X-bots are also fucking real. And that guy is paid. That guy is straight up paid by fucking Phil Spencer.
Look at me like I want it. No. I'm looking at you and I'm saying, yeah, they fought this hard to get there. Where's the fucking win? That's what I just mean, and I say this out of fear for them. I like the vision Phil and team have talked about for so long. I love Xbox being everywhere.
And this isn't a win though? Huh? This isn't a win. A stunning visual, incredible game that pushes the medium forward. That's not a win. Like, I guess the flip side of this is like, why aren't we celebrating this as a win? You bought Ninja Theory to make another Hellblade. You gave them all the money. They produced something incredible in front of all of our eyes. Maybe it didn't hit on the combat and gameplay side, but they pushed this forward. That's what you wanted, right?
It doesn't push the medium forward.
Oh, I think it's so simple. No, I mean, yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Even the original Hellblade didn't really push the medium forward. Like, it was a narrative about mental illness, but the original never pushed the medium forward. But this guy, I think this guy is a complete fanboy. He's getting paid, I swear. I love Hellblade, but I know what it's not. And it's not a media pushing fucking game.
Like, 2 out of 4 aspects forward.
I get that, but
that's like, a 50% win ratio. It sucks.
Yeah, Fiji ball.
Did the Order 1886 push Sony to a different level?
If this isn't a win here, then you're just clearly saying to the world, just make Fortnite. Like, if we're not going to celebrate these moments, then you're looking at them going, ah, shit, man. Like, you did this. You elevated that with that studio, and you kept them open and alive with all your money. But you know what? Not good enough. You're telling me they're not going to look at you and go, okay, well, it's time to make that.
This game did not elevate gaming. It elevated visuals 1,000%.
He's right.
Xbox Series X is the only time you've ever looked at that Xbox Series X and said, damn, I didn't know this console could fucking do that.
Now, for the record, I only turn on my Xbox Series X twice a year.
He's such an Xbox fanboy.
Right now, this is near the top. You might bring up 2 other games, but like this is clearly one of the big 3 poster childs for this generation of pushing this console forward. To prove to me why I need this console, this is one of those marquee titles.
Wow.
And that's a win.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, please go, Bears.
They all disagree with him because he's a fucking fanboy. He's paid by Xbox.
But that's...
We lost focus on you.
Bring it back to last year when Phil came on XCast. See, this is the thing. With Arcane, it sounds like they didn't intervene enough, but then you say you don't want them to, so what's the balance? That's kind of where... they have to figure it out. Like with Ninja Theory, to me, I think Ninja Theory made the game they wanted to make. I don't think Xbox jumped in and told them to do anything.
100%.
This is what they wanted to do, which is what we want. But then at the same time, there's the business side of it to where, all right, you got to make a profit. You got to have revenue. What games are supposed to do that? Which
I need to make the clip.
Bring it back to last year.
Saying to the world, just make Fortnite. Like, if we're not going to celebrate these moments, then you're looking at them going, ah, shit, man. Like, you did this. You elevated that with that studio, and you kept them open and alive with all your money. But you know what? Not good enough. You're telling me they're not going to look at you and go, okay, well, it's time to make that.
This game did not elevate gaming. It elevated visuals 1,000%.
He's right.
Series X is the only time you've ever looked at that Xbox Series X and said, damn, I didn't know this console could fucking do that.
Now, for the record, I only turn on my Xbox Series X twice a year.
You're such an Xbox fanboy.
Generation right now, this is near the top. You might bring up 2 other games, but like this is clearly one of the big 3 poster childs for this generation of pushing this console forward. To prove to me why I need this console, this is one of those marquee titles.
Wow.
And that's a win.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, please go, Bears.
They all disagree with him because he's a fucking fanboy. It's paid by Xbox.
But that's
We lost focus
I'll
on
even
you.
bring it back to last year when Phil came on XCast. See, this is the thing.
Saying to the world, just make Fortnite. Like, if we're not going to celebrate these moments, then you're looking at them going, ah, shit, man. Like, you did this. You elevated that with that studio, and you kept them open and alive with all your money. But you know what? Not good enough. You're telling me they're not going to look at you and go, okay, well, it's time to make that.
This game did not elevate gaming. It elevated visual.
Then you're just clearly saying to the world, just make Fortnite. Like, if we're not going to celebrate these moments, then you're looking at them going, ah, shit, man. Like, then you're just clearly saying to the world, just make Fortnite. Like, if we're not going to celebrate these moments, then you're looking at them going, ah, shit, man. Like, you did this. You elevated that with that studio, and you kept them open and alive with all your money. But you know what? Not good enough. You're telling me they're not going to look at you and go, okay, well, it's time to make that.
This game.
Toshi, I clipped that, sorry.
Which ones don't? So they have to figure out that balance, I think.
100%.
And to Mike's point, we don't just want Fortnite. We want
100%.
I am happy this game exists, warts and all. We need these kind of games to go along with the Fortnites and the Call of Duties of the world. So for that aspect of it, absolutely, I think this is a win for Xbox. It shows that they are not afraid to have these type of games come out. They're not afraid for this game to have, hell, what is it, a 5-6 year development cycle or whatever it was, right? That the end result, sure, it may not have certain things it didn't do to push the industry forward, but from a visual standpoint, to what Mike is saying, it's the best looking game I've seen on the Xbox Series X. This is a game they can push out to the front and go, this is what this hardware can do. This is where we're trying to take visual fidelity. I'm sure the coalition is looking at this and going, well, goddamn, we better make sure the Gear 6 looks this good, because Ninja Theory just
Coalition.
what Unreal 5 can do on this.
Fuck Coalition, man.
Just on that aspect alone.
Coalition have had 2 chances to make a Gears game that was as good as the original trilogy. They haven't created characters I give a fuck about. That choice that you make at the end, I could not give a fuck if Marcus's son died or the other guy died, the black guy died. I didn't care, because I didn't like these characters, and I don't like that female character who's like the grandeur of the Locust. Coalition are fucking washed, man. Fucking washed me.
I think this is a win for Xbox, because they can use this to show what
Gears ain't the franchise it used to be. Everyone, all my mates were talking about Gears. No one talks about Halo the same way. No one talks about Gears the same way.
Xbox Game Studio games can do, whether you think it's a 10 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10.
I'm going to be the person that's on both sides. But I do think that you guys are both right in some instance, right? I think this game is considered a win if you're looking at the Xbox that acquired Ninja Theory went, hey, we like what you did with Hellblade, and we like what you've done as a studio. We like what you're doing with technology, and seeing them take the time, put out this product. I think you look at the split nature of it in terms of reception. I think you look at the current Metacritic. I think you expect how many people are going to show up to it and buy it, right? Which isn't going to be like the craziest number of people, but I think the fans, and I think enough people will probably show up and buy it and have like a regular reception in terms of what it does commercially. I think all of that is a win, but I also think that when I say it's a win, I am talking about Xbox pre this last year. As far as
this is the point I'm driving at.
As far as what the video game industry has turned into, as far as how money is tightened up, as far as all the layoffs and studio closures. In the last few weeks, the news stories with Xbox and Microsoft have been that, it seems like Microsoft as an entity is putting way more scrutiny on Xbox post Activision Blizzard acquisition as they did pre. I think pre Activision Blizzard acquisition, Xbox would have looked at this and went, yeah, fuck, you guys did great. Like, you guys did exactly what we wanted you to do. I think right now, Microsoft's looking at them and is talking the way that Greg is right now, which is, no, we need a fucking like hit though. You know, that is why you look at Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks. I think that's how you lose them, is they go to Xbox and go, hey, get the margins up, close down some people. I think right now you need to, as Xbox, prove to Microsoft that you have big money makers.
Xbox need to fix up, man. They need to fix up, Toshi.
Isn't poised to be able to produce that kind of thing. I think they are in danger, not necessarily because of Phil, Sarah, and that team looking at like, oh man, we
It's
can't
their
do
bosses.
Yeah, I think it's their bosses. I think it's the Satya and Nadellas of the world being like, yeah, but Hellblade didn't sell the way that we need it to. It didn't sell like a Call of Duty. It didn't sell like how PlayStation's doing God of War and Spider-Man over there. I think that's kind of where the split nature of it is.
100%.
Yeah. We're in an interesting place for Xbox because we don't celebrate their wins enough, but then when we do get a win, we say it's not good enough. And so there's this weird dynamic shift of Xbox right now where they are purchasing these studios, trying to nurture and elevate them. And when we get a hi-fi rush, we celebrate and it's great. We get a Redfall and it's the worst thing on planet Earth. And they're in this constant ebb and flow. And now we get a game that probably, in my mind, should be celebrated. This game should be like, hey, you did the damn thing, great job. But Xbox isn't going to be seen like that because it's got an 81 on Metacritic. And they're going to go, oh, man, that's just another mid game from Xbox. Unbelievable, right? When it's like, hey, that's another great game that should be added to the Xbox catalog that can justify your Game Pass purchase, maybe a console sale, right? It's just bolstering the team. And they're coming out with these games where, like we said so many times, you're hoping for the domino to fall, but like the dominoes keep missing. But there's wins in those dominoes. You have a Forza Horizon 5. That's a Game of the Year contender. You have a Microsoft Flight Sim that changes technology as a whole using cloud. You got games like Halo Infinite, which, sure, they didn't stick the landing in live service, but goddamn, that game was fucking good, right? And we didn't give that enough love. You look at Psychonauts 2. That's a great game under their umbrella. You go down the list, it's like there's good games in here that should be celebrated, but every time they miss, it's like, oh, damn, Phil, you guys suck at this. You're never going to get it right. It's a weird place to be, man. I get it. I'm on both sides, right? I love Sony. I love Nintendo. I love Xbox. It's just a weird place
PC
to be
though,
like,
right?
PC sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's like, hey, that's where we're at, you know? That's
Fuck
where
you,
we're at.
Paris.
I like my PC.
Something we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about on this because I know we kind of hey, it looks great on the Series X. We know it looks great on PC. I played it on the Series S. Looks great.
Yeah,
plays great. I mean, it's definitely again another W for them. The little box that was able to play this game at a great visual fidelity. So anybody on the Series S will have no issues playing Hellblade.
Tell you, it was a shocking experience when I went on the road and I took my Series S with me and I plugged in and played Starfield. They're like, oh, right, this doesn't do 60. Whoa, fuck.
That's crazy.
I've been feasting my eyes on Starfield since that patch I got there. I was like, oh, damn, fuck.
I split my time between Xbox Series X at home and then playing at work. I'm playing on my portable or my gaming laptop. And I can't give you the specs right now. I don't even know what the fuck brand that gaming laptop is. All I know is that
Chinatown is
yeah.
off the street.
All I know is
I'm
that
not gonna say what it is
that
now.
shit was barely holding together, but it got the job done though. Like it ran the game. But I was like, man, I can't wait to play this on Xbox Series X when I get home because it looked really good on console.
It was one of the few times as an Xbox gamer where I have smiled from ear to ear and I've been wowed by playing an Xbox game studio saying, damn, this shit is awesome. Good for them, right? I do that all the time with PlayStation games. I turn on Uncharted, I go, God damn, this is the best. I turn on Last of Us, this is rocks. I turn on
Psychonauts was good, though.
Psychonauts
was good, though.
Rocks, right? On Xbox, I finally get that. I'm like, yo, this rocks. You got a talented studio. Let's nurture them. Let's give them the money to back this up. If they want to tell freaky deaky stories, you tell those freaky deaky stories. If you want to look at them and tell them, make a mainstream goddamn banger, you tell them to do that. But this studio should be protected and like celebrated, and I hope that 6 months down the line they're not getting canned, right? Because that would suck.
They usually give them a year. They'll port it to PlayStation, then they'll cancel it.
Mike, I'm celebrating them. I think it's a win.
Thank you, homie. It's a win.
Let me get two questions before I get
Homie, he actually called him a homie.
Chris wrote in and said, I've never finished Hellblade 1, but don't want to risk spoilers and such from Hellblade 2. How much does it matter to play Hellblade 1 first? Thank you. I mean, in terms of the story, not much.
Call him
There's a great
homies.
recap that they do at the very, very front that,
Oh, yeah.
that plays and tells you the whole story to give you what you need. But
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, you also just get to it, Chris. Like, why? Just go. Do it.
Yeah, just finish.
Glad, yeah, that was dope. I think that was the best discussion about Hellblade. It was fair. is fair and balanced. It's fair and balanced. Definitely the most balanced conversation I've seen about Hellblade. I don't like kind of funny for what they did to Colin Moriarty, but they do have good discussions. I'll give them that. They do have good discussions. They're connecting with each other on a personal level, breaking them boundaries. Yeah. God damn, Tashi. God damn. God damn. God damn. God dang. God dang. Goddamn sons of bitches. Goddamn sons of bitches. It's the goddamn sons of bitches. Goddamn boundaries, fam. Goddamn boundaries. Gotta. Yeah. Joey. Gotta. Tomorrow, inshallah. Tomorrow, inshallah, I should arrive. Then I'll be back to Unicorn. I'll be back to Unicorn Overlord. Did you watch my FF13 VOD, Toshi? Me and Ryan were chatting while I was playing FF13 on Xbox One. Xbox One, I was playing FF13. You gotta watch that VOD. Me and Ryan be talking. Only he was there. Only he be there. Only he be there. Yeah. Alright, I think I'm done, man. Dead stream today. But I was watching a whole bunch of Hellblade 2 reviews, so. In the stream. I'm gonna go download Hellblade 2. No, actually, tomorrow, Toshi, I will be streaming Hellblade 2. Put my money where my mouth is. Hellblade 2, I'll be streaming. Gotta. Blade 2. Gotta. I'll probably have to do Chrono Trigger then, Toshi. That's the case. Chrono Trigger. Steam. Gotta, Toshi. Gotta. I'll go for another hour. I'll be munching though, Toshi. Muncher will arrive, so I'll be munching. Munches Odyssey. Gotta. Hellblade. Chrono Trigger. Gotta. Music, Toshi, music. Music. Dragon Ball Z sound effects. The Dragon Ball Z sound effects. I need to download Hellblade 2 though, Toshi, but I need to do that today. Otherwise, it's a big file. I need to download it now, so I might end the stream. Might end the stream. Mystic Mountains, interesting. Oh, this is where I get that chick. This is where I get that chick. I see. Don't worry, all good, Enstrom. Yeah, do I download it now? Yeah, I mean, Toshi, you came too late, man. That's the problem nowadays. Y'all come too fucking late. Come too damn late, Toshi. Who the fuck are these guys? Who the fuck are these guys? Omegas. Alright, I'm done for now, Toshi. I'm done for now. It's alright, Toshi, take care, man.
I'm so fresh, you can suck my nuts. I'm so fresh, you can suck my nuts. Swag. I'm so fresh, you can suck my nuts. I'm so fresh, you can suck my nuts. I'm so fresh, you can suck my nuts. I'm so fresh, you can suck my nuts.